Hey everybody, Richard Neese here. We appreciate you tuning in to Your Dollars Making Sense. We hope you guys are having a great Saturday morning. We're pre-recording right now, so we're probably going to be getting ready for the football games and everything else that's going on this weekend. I wanted to do a quick shout out. There's at St. Bernard here in Coleman. We're having Blues and Barbecue. If you guys haven't ever been to it, some great music, great food, great people. That's Saturday and Sunday. So if this is the first time you've listened to Your Dollars Making Sense, I'm the host, Richard Neese. I'm a local real estate broker here in North Alabama. And it's, I would say probably about once a week, maybe twice a week, I have somebody call me and ask me, hey, Richard, can we sit down and can we have lunch? Can we talk about investing? I want to know how to get into the real estate side. I want to know if it's a good investment for me. What should I do? And so that's what started Your Dollars Making Sense. I wanted to give the information. I wanted to put it out there so that you guys would know. You'd have that foundation, that financial intelligence to make good decisions on investing. I've got a special guest today, Mr. Stephen Gannon. Stephen, I appreciate you coming in.
Thank you, Richard.
So Stephen has invested in the community and himself and others so many times, and he's kind of got, I'd say, a wide range of business experience and expertise. Stephen, you want to give the folks a little bit about you, tell them who you are, what you do?
I'd be glad to, Richard. Thanks again so much for having me. Great chance to perhaps meet, I guess, virtually or over the airwaves, some folks that I haven't had a chance to actually touch directly. But I love this community. I've been a part of the Coleman area now for about 10, 11 years. And just to give you kind of a quick background of what brought me to Alabama, so many people ask me that. They start hearing me speak and they say, well, you're not from around here, are you?
That's all right. We'll hold that against you.
I know.
You just say y'all every now and then, you'll be good to go.
Yeah, one of my staff members actually called me out on saying y'all for the first time. But I did grow up in Connecticut, just a stone's throw away from New York City. It was a beautiful place to grow up. I was very blessed, youngest of seven, big Catholic family. So I just had a lot of experiences growing up and came south originally. Don't hold it against me. I went to the University of Tennessee.
Oh, no.
Yeah. But a great school. Had a wonderful experience
there.
They
focus on academics. Right?
That's right. That's right. One of the top 50 business undergraduate schools in the country. Public universities. But anyway,
I've actually got a tie-in to Knoxville. I don't know if you knew this or not. My unit that I deployed with for the military was out of Knoxville.
Oh,
We're
okay.
right off of Weisgarber there, not far from the university. So, but go ahead.
Yeah. Okay. Wonderful. And then I did live in Texas for about 12 years. I had some one-year stops elsewhere, but I had a long career in the corporate world, the 20 or so years in telecommunications. I started in the early 90s in Dallas, and I was very fortunate, had some great opportunities along the way, earned my graduate degree, which actually in large part was paid for by one of the companies I worked for. That was a great opportunity for me to, again, learn and kind of broaden my horizons. And then came to Alabama, actually, for very different reasons, non-business related. As I mentioned a moment ago, I grew up in a large Catholic family. I have a brother who's a Catholic priest in Connecticut. He inspired me actually to think about religious life when I was kind of in between jobs. And that's actually what brought me to Alabama, literally my faith. And I thought about religious life for a short time in early 2007 and had a great experience. Actually stayed with the community in Hanceville. But I just didn't really feel called to it. Sure. But it was still something that I value greatly because it helped my prayer life a great deal.
That's one of the things that I really pride myself on with this show is that even though the name of the show is Your Dollars Making Sense, one of the things that we hit on is it's not all about dollars and cents. I mean, there's lots of other things, and we're going to talk about that, obviously, on the spiritual side that you've already kind of touched on. But one of your businesses focuses on keeping the engine running for a business person, which is fitness. So it all kind of ties in. You can be a very, very successful business person and make millions of dollars. But if you don't live long enough to enjoy that, then what's the point in making all that money? And the same thing on the spiritual side. If you're not at peace with yourself, if you're at war constantly with, pushing for the business model and taking advantage of people and making more dollars, then at that point, what's the point in living? In my opinion, I would rather live as a pauper and be happy than have millions and millions of dollars and be unhappy. That's what we're here for, and you know that.
Right.
So I didn't mean to jump in there. But
no, that's actually great. That'll actually be a nice segue into the thoughts that kind of started to unfold for me to explore Anytime Fitness. But prior to that, in the late 2000s, I did have one last job in my old field in telecommunications for about 5 years. I was commuting up to Huntsville, but still living here in Coleman County. And my thoughts started going in the direction of small business ownership, which I've had those thoughts on and off for a while, but started to take root a little bit more. And at that time, is you'd mentioned about my just investment in real estate. I'd met some great folks. I know you know a lot of the girls from Louisiana.
Absolutely.
And they actually were a great inspiration for me to kind of start considering that. So I did start investing in some rental property, and that really kind of laid the foundation, unbeknownst to me, honestly, at the time, to be able to give me the financial leverage later on to open a business. And I met some people and I'd heard Eddie Kennedy give a talk a couple of months ago at Goat Island, and he said, "No man is a self-made man." And isn't that more true?
That's exactly right.
And so, I'll mention all my partners along the way that really.
I'm really glad that you mentioned that. So Shane, I don't know if you heard Shane Quick did a similar one.
I got caught up on my business. I got caught up on my business one night, and I was so much wanting to go.
Well, it's on Facebook. I mean, they got several people. You should check it out. But one thing he talks about is the definition of an entrepreneur. So you said small business. I think we're saying this. We're speaking the same language. How would you define what an entrepreneur is? I know that's kind of a catchword now. I mean, everybody wants to say they're an entrepreneur.
They do.
There's a couple people. I mean, Shane, the way that he defined it was somebody that has a very, very high interest, whether that's debt or time, that they take on a business. And when they put it into that business, that they expect a return off of it, but it's really more than what a business person would consider a safe investment. So an entrepreneur is going to basically take all of his resources and put it into that, put all of his eggs in one basket and say, I've got to make this work. Right. How would you define that?
That's an interesting question. Of all the questions people ask me over the years, as I've gotten to know folks, I don't think I've ever been quite asked that question. And so I've never really sat down.
No problem.
No. It's interesting, but it's interesting for me to try to even define it for myself right now, because I guess I've never stopped long enough to think long and hard on it. But certainly that's, I think what you just mentioned that Shane said is, I think, certainly a large part of it that I've been blessed with some, resources to be able to, make these additional investments. And of course, it always is still a big risk. You could lose everything. Eddie talked about that, 2 months ago. And so there's never any guarantee, and no guarantee that tomorrow.
I had a business coach from up in Murfreesboro that defined entrepreneurism, or being an entrepreneur, as taking low-level resources and achieving maximum productivity. And I think that's pretty basic, but it's very true. I mean, you look at the guys out there hustling, and whether they're using their personal connections, the not sleeping and working 24 hours a day, or using their mind, or whatever that is. I mean, they're taking the low-level resources and really maximizing in a way. And I don't know if do you know who Gary Vaynerchuk is?
Yes, I do.
So Gary V, even though I'm not a fan of his language, he always hits a lot of points where he talks about, just hustling all the time and working your face off and stuff like that. But I mean, these entrepreneurs are out there, and they're really competing with the big boys as far as corporate, with the low-level resources, because of creativity and because of dedication and stuff like that, and really knowing their brand and product. So, sorry, I got a little off task there. I get excited when we start talking about entrepreneurs.
I will. Another famous entrepreneur that many of us know well, of course, of Shark Tank fame, is Lori Greniers. I liked her definition, where she said, being an entrepreneur allows you to work, allows you to work an 80-hour week, so you don't have to work a 40-hour week.
That's exactly right. And I love that one.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's me every day. But the great thing is, and I think you can attest to this, Richard, is that if you're doing what you love, it doesn't feel like an 80-hour week.
Absolutely.
I mean, I know my mom gets on me, Stephen, you need a vacation. I probably haven't taken a quote-unquote vacation in about 5 or so years, but I love what I'm doing.
Well, you want to create a life you don't have to vacate from.
Exactly.
That's a common thing that I see as far as memes and stuff on Facebook. But I agree. I mean, I'm constantly working, and I tell folks this all the time, being a real estate broker or a real estate investor, whatever you want to call me. I'm constantly working, but I'm never working. So it's kind of an interesting complex.
It is. Yeah.
It's hard to break away. Like I don't have set times. Alabama football games, I'm going to get 16 phone calls during that football game. I know it. I might as well go ahead and accept it. It is what it is. But I may have 3 hours in the morning every morning for 2 weeks that I can spend with my family that most people wouldn't have. So it's definitely more flexible. With the real estate side, I know when you own businesses, you have certain set times and things like that. So it's a little bit different. So I'm talking to Stephen Gannon today. We haven't even gotten into his businesses yet. All we're talking about is theory and background and stuff like that. Stephen is one of our Actually, two of his businesses are sponsors for the show, and we appreciate that. We're coming up against a break right now. If you guys please tune back in on the second segment. We're going to be talking. Do you want to talk about Anytime, or do you want to talk about 412?
Yeah, let's talk about both, because honestly, interestingly enough, one led to another.
Really?
So absolutely,
You heard it from Stephen. One led to another. Make sure you tune back in to find out how.
You're listening to Your Dollars Making Sense podcast, hosted by Richard Neese.
Hey everybody, Richard Neese here. Welcome back to the second segment of Your Dollars Making Sense. I've got Stephen Gannon with me today, and Stephen's already dropping some bombs. I think we probably should have recorded the intermediate part where we had the commercials going, because we had good stuff there too. We appreciate you guys tuning in so much. We believe that financial intelligence is the key to financial freedom, and so we want to give you guys that information. We want to talk to local businessmen, investors. We've talked to folks talking about financial planning, real estate, and during the break we were talking about kind of paths. There's lots of different paths you can take in order to get to financial freedom, and you've got to define what financial freedom is. Stephen was telling me a little bit about how, one of the folks he listened to talked more about becoming debt-free as opposed to leveraging. You want to go into that a little bit more, Stephen?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. So thankfully, again, with my investment properties, I started to obviously build some equity in those properties. And I've always been one to try to accelerate payments and everything to try to build as much equity as possible, as soon as possible.
And the key on that is obviously you've got somebody else paying that. It's not you actually paying that note.
Correct.
So.
Yeah. And a little bit of me too, but yeah, absolutely. And so when the idea for Anytime Fitness started to take root, and this was back in early 2014, I had obviously started to explore franchise opportunities. So I'm just going to kind of bounce back and forth a little bit here. But one of the things you had mentioned at the opening was just looking at different businesses. What drove me to that, and service related. One of the things that I wanted to really look at as far as a potential franchise opportunity was something that I could do to help people. Sure. And then as I was kind of looking at the landscape of Coleman at the time, of course, there's a lot more competition now, but there were no 24-hour gyms. The Aquatic Center is a beautiful facility caters very well to a lot of people. But I thought there was maybe a little bit of a market for not only a 24-hour gym, but maybe a little bit smaller place that could really provide great service, great training, of course, have full access. And so I thought there definitely was a market for that. And it proved to be very true.
And you guys moved pretty early on that south part of town. And that was a great move, I think, because it's grown so much down there.
It has, yeah.
I know
absolutely.
Locally that was a big move for you. So, Stephen, why, and we want to talk about concepts as much as details. Why did you decide to go with a franchise? Because, I mean, you're an intelligent guy. Obviously, you don't necessarily need that track to run on, or that what made that more attractive than just saying, I'm going to open Gannon's 24 Fitness?
Right. That's a great question. And since I didn't have expertise in fitness, certainly this was going to help me out a great deal. And I'll talk in a moment or two about the people that helped me grow that business. Yeah. First of foremost, I need to mention my partner, Cesar Garcia, because without Cesar financially, this business wouldn't have happened. And so we, out of our pocket, penny by penny invested equally. We're 50-50 partners. And I approached him about the idea in 2014. And then later that year, I was actually visiting his family in Italy, and we're at a little cafe in Florence, and I brought it up again. And from there, the idea really took root, and we hit the ground running and signed the franchise agreement. But back to your question about what was attractive to the franchise model. Again, I didn't have a fitness background, but also knowing that people know me, they call me very OCD, and I'll take that as a compliment.
I've never heard that before. I'm just kidding.
but honestly, I did like the idea of having a structure in place. Anytime also presented itself as a very low failure rate within its system, which to me spoke volumes about how they operate, how they evolve as a business, because they've only been around since 2002, but they're still in the world, still the fastest growing gym franchise. And so there was a lot of and the barriers to entry were very low. And in fact, I mean, decent franchise fee, but their decent initial franchise fee, which was a good bit out of pocket. But they really set it up for owners to be
Right.
successful.
That makes sense.
And so all of that combined, I think, and then just again, I have a lot of business experience, and I even ran small businesses in my early days outside of college. I know I love to talk about my Blockbuster days. I was a manager up in Connecticut, New York, right after college, and so
there are people that are wondering what in the world is a Blockbuster.
Exactly. Yeah. So I've opened retail stores. I opened a huge bookshop when bookstores were still before Amazon closed most of them. So I had a lot of experience running small retail operations, and so that wasn't intimidating to me at all, and I really could embrace that. But still, I like the idea of having a little bit of structure in place, a little understanding around, again, not just throwing my name on a door and just hoping for the best. And
I'd say the fitness industry is not going to go out of style. It's always going to change. Everything's going to change, but there's always going to be people that want to pump iron, get in there and run on the treadmill, or get coaching on personal training, on diet and things like that. So you're never going to lose that portion of it for sure.
No, that's exactly right. And we have been so blessed. And you just talk about coaching, and Caesar, he and his family live back and forth in Italy. So I was working mostly in the gym for the first couple of years with our former training manager, Aaliyah DeBoer. And Aaliyah is a rock star. I mean, she really helped me grow that business. She's, of course, many people know her now over at the Aquatic Center. Right. And I was so glad that she had had that opportunity, which was very well deserved. So now we have a wonderful staff with John Davis, our office manager. He helps run the whole business from the office standpoint. Haley Smith, our personal training manager, and John and Haley just got engaged 2 weekends ago. So we're very, very happy for them both. Zach Gordon, who's been with us going on 2 years at the end of this year, and he's been knocking it out of the park. And Absolutely. I know you train with Zach. And
Zach takes care of me, does a good job.
Yeah. And then most recently, who joined our staff earlier this year, Tammy Strong. Tammy is just an absolute inspiration to everyone that she touches. I mean, and she, I love using her story for people who are maybe reticent, especially folks, closer, because she started lifting weights in her late 50s, and she's 61 and doing powerlifting competitions. Absolutely. and so
it's pretty incredible.
Yeah, so we have a very kind of diverse group of folks running our club, but it's such a great thing for us, and so Caesar and I really have the best of everything in terms of the people that just so inspire everyone that walks through that door.
So the interesting part of that is, typically with a franchise, you think cookie cutter, but you guys have made it to where it's diverse. I mean, you walk in the gym, you've got all different types of people, all looking for the same goal, which is to improve their fitness, which is great. The supporting staff is so important. And that's why we're going to have to go to this commercial break for the supporting staff for the rest of the guys. Okay. For the folks that are supporting us as far as sponsorship goes, we appreciate all of them. And I know that you're a big part of that, Stephen, and we appreciate that too. So we're on the other side, we're going to talk about the transition, or the growth is a better word, growth from Anytime over to 412 and how they work together.
Great.
You're listening to Your Dollars Making Sense podcast, hosted by Richard Neese.
Hey everybody, Richard Neese here. Welcome back to Your Dollars Making Sense. Now, we've got tons of content going on today. I love having guests, especially guests like Stephen. We appreciate you coming on, talking about multiple businesses that you've run, investing in people, investing in the community, different business models that you've had. And to me, your story on that, going from rental properties and then finding the right partner and partnering up and running multiple businesses within a 5-year time frame? Is that about right?
That's about right.
In 5 years, I hear so many people say, man, it's just, if I was 25, I could start that business. But at any age, you can do that and take off, especially with when you work with a franchise or have that business partner that can help lead you through that process. So tell me a little bit about how how Anytime led into 412.
Yeah, I'd love to. Thank you again, Richard.
You give a quick detail as far as what 412 Pub House is.
Yeah. So for those of you who don't know, we're a gastropub, and that's just kind of like a higher end pub with wonderful food. And I'm going to talk about incredible food. Yeah, I'm going to talk about that a lot because one of my partners is our executive chef, but we the idea actually kind of started formulating about 3 years ago, but we're located over on 2nd Avenue Southeast. If I can make reference to our two other business restaurant neighbors in one direction around the corner, we're from just east and north, a block and a half east and north from the Busy Bee, and then
Right.
the opposite direction from Allsteak. So,
Yeah.
and two great businesses that we're glad to be within
I love
a
the
couple
way you
blocks of.
frame that too. I mean, you guys. I mean, you are in competition, but there's enough business out there for everybody. If you do
Absolutely.
a good job, people will come.
Come for sure, absolutely. So interestingly enough, the great thing about Anytime too is you had mentioned about the diverse people, and that is so true. And I did work basically full time in the club for the first 2 years, solid, a lot of hours, and just wanted to learn every nut and bolt of the business.
absolutely.
And so that's actually obviously helped serve me very well, and continuing to help run the operations. But again, our staff pretty much does it all now. But I still have obviously a strong input into what's going on week to week.
Sure.
But anyway, having spent so much time in the gym initially, I was able to meet so many of our early members, which was wonderful. And just an interesting story. One of our members, young guy, many people know in the community, Trey Jordan. He had, of course, his dad owns the Dairy Queen in Hanceville, but Trey's done a variety of things. An incredibly creative young man. But
I agree.
yeah, we had met at the gym, and David Moore, who owns and runs Good Life magazine, actually did a really nice piece on us about a year and a half ago, ahead of our opening. And Trey and I were actually became friends, believe it or not, over and I'll give a huge plug to one of my older nephews, older than a kid at nephew,
Right,
but he's in
yeah.
his 30s, but he lives in Brooklyn, New York. He went to art school, one of the best art schools in the country, but he's an illustrator and an author. He's written 2 fabulous children books. These are hefty books. They're not like just a couple of pages.
Right.
It's like 300-page books that he did
Oh, wow.
all the illustrations for. They're called The Doldrums, and you can find it on Amazon. It's gotten critically acclaimed by the New York Times and other
Nice.
book reviews. So, but anyway, Nick's book had come out. His first one had come out, and I had it on the shelf in my office at Anytime. And I was sitting there chatting with Trey one time, and I didn't know Trey hardly at all. He's like, you read children's books? And I said, not normally, but my nephew wrote this book. And so this actually kind of started our friendship, which was really cool. So David Moore referenced this back in his article last year. And so that just kind of started our just kind of getting to know one another.
Well, Trey reads a lot of children's books too.
He does.
You know
Oh,
that,
yeah.
with all his kids. so.
Absolutely. Yeah, for sure. So, no, that is very true. So, in a year's time, we had, gotten to know each other a little bit better. And then, my other partner with 412, Rico Nishimura, he actually also joined the gym not too long after we opened. So I got to know Rico, and of
Absolutely.
course he was actually obviously working at another place nearby
Right.
here at that point. And so the idea for a new place, a little bit more upscale, kind of started to take root. Trey actually presented the idea, and then we had talked to Rico, and I'll be very candid here in saying that having had already eaten Rico's food, knowing the integrity of that man in terms of everything he does, down to cleaning, managing his staff, just always wanting the best of everything. I said, well, this is a person that I could absolutely partner with as well.
Sure.
So I think it really was a great formula. We had absolutely the great creative mind of Trey, and then Rico's just incredible approach to everything he does, and his extreme talent. And a lot of people don't know about Rico. He obviously came to America. Well, he's not obvious, but he's a great athlete too. But he's a man of many hidden talents for sure. But and then I think we really make a great team, and just kind of putting that staff together. But so the idea took root, and then it wouldn't again been even possible because this was an empty lot that had been destroyed right after the tornado. And we had approached Debbie Wood and her son Jacob, who works and is part owner of Near Construction. And of course, they were initially reticent because this, like you said, this is not a franchise. This was a much higher risk because we had no track record, except for us as business people. And thankfully, obviously, Rico had a long track record of just a great reputation in his craft. And then, I'd started to obviously develop Anytime Fitness with Caesar here. And then, of course, I had a long track record in the corporate world. So I think hopefully those things helped a lot. But ultimately, we started kind of formulating this plan. It's hard to believe 3 years ago, and when we first approached Debbie and Jacob, and then started to really take root the following year, engaged with an architect.
Yeah.
Frank Fag, who's here just a couple of blocks away. And Frank did a beautiful job in designing that building for us. And the rest is history, shall we say. But of course, a lot of blood, sweat, and tears. But
you guys have a great product, great environment. I love, I was eating there yesterday, obviously. I saw you there.
Thank you. Yeah.
And it seems like about once or twice a week I'm over there. Hopefully my wife's not listening to that. She's wondering why I'm not taking her over there that often.
She mentioned that to me.
I know. She mentions that to a lot of people, unfortunately. I get in trouble pretty regularly. So let's hit some takeaways on this. I mean, obviously you've started several different businesses.
Sure, yeah.
If somebody's out there, they're thinking they want to be an entrepreneur, they want to get into whether it's rental property, a franchise model, fitness, what kind of takeaways can you give them? Or what kind of encouragement can you give them? Yeah,
I mean, again, as you had made reference to Shane's talk, which I look forward to listening to as soon as I get a chance. Of course, I mentioned Eddie's talk, no man is an island, as you had said. And he said, of course, no man is a self-made man. I mean, I've been very blessed with the people that I've been able to engage in with business, both on a partnership level and then, of course, on our respective teams as well. And one thing I will also say that as far as our team members go, which of course none of these businesses even exist without them, is that if you take care, I guess maybe I'll just back up for a moment. One of the sponsorships that we do at the restaurant, we do the YAY program through the chamber, and this is the Young Entrepreneurs program that engages the high school kids to think about entrepreneurship and small business and the like. And as I talked to one of those groups last year, I said, just treat your employees. I mean, it is like a small family. So, obviously there's going to be some bumps and bruises, but by and large, just treat everyone very, very well. And if you take care of them, they'll take care of your business and stay loyal to you. I think Richard Branson had a quote about that. Treat people well, and they'll stay loyal to you. And it's and it's really true. And so I think it's very important. And but again, just takeaways. Just obviously, you're going to have to weed through some difficult times and some folks who really don't have your best interest at heart. But by and large, there's a lot of good people out there. You just have to find them. So
Stephen, we appreciate you coming on. Thank you so much. We're going to have you come back on and tell more about 412. I know we kind of cut that short. We're running out of time. We'd love to have you on anytime. We appreciate the sponsorship anytime.
Absolutely.
Good plug there. We appreciate the sponsorship of the show and investing in the community and all the things that you do. Thank you so much. Do you want to let folks know one more time? Just let them know how to get in contact with you, whether it's for the gym or going to the restaurant. Just give a quick plug.
Yeah, absolutely. Love to. Thank you again, Richard. Anytime Fitness, please come see us. Actually, we're having our big sale next week, our $1 to join sale. And you mentioned coaching. This is something that we're evolving as a business, and our coaching ever gets better. Look on our social media. You'll see amazing success stories in our own gym. And that's the most inspiring thing for me, totally. So call John Davis, call Haley Smith, get in touch with Zach Gordon or Tammy Strong. We have some great folks there. And if any folks are listening from the Arab area, we just opened up a gym there, but we'll talk about that next time. Absolutely. But we have a wonderful gym up there and another fantastic crew in 412, of course. 412pub.com is our website. We're on Facebook and social media. Have a great presence there, and you'll see some more great things coming from us in the months ahead, and we look forward to continuing to serve the community.
Well, thank you, Stephen. We really appreciate it. We appreciate each and every one of you for listening to Your Dollars Making Sense. We believe that financial intelligence is the key to your financial freedom.